Please subscribe and don't forget to press the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload a new video.
Right, so let's take a look at the Asian markets as we speak. Remember, the Dow on Friday closed with a 100-point gain. And the Asian markets, however, are mixed as we open, most of them trading in positive territory, taking cues coming in from the Wall Street gains. Investors seem to have shed the concerns about trade war after another set of tariffs on US goods were announced by China. Nikkei currently trading flat off the high point of the day, still off the low point of the day as well, and not big in terms of change seen for the dollar yen. However, the Korean index is the one which is gaining, up about 0.2% as we speak, 3.35 in terms of gains coming in for the Korean index, as well as the Straits, as well as the Taiwanese indices. Both of them should come up for you. The Straits is trading with a gain of 0.6%, while the Taiwanese index absolutely flat. The SGX Nifty, that is the big outperformer as we speak. The highest on the Nifty has been so far 11,391. If you adjust for the premium, the SGX Nifty indicates that we may conquer that 11,400 mark as we open.
Okay, start for the Nifty on the front foot, but on Wall Street, the Dow Jones rose on Friday, led by gains in Apple as well as IBM. Now, the index added over 130 points at close. Meanwhile, the S&P 500 gained around 0.5% as consumer staples outperformed. The Nasdaq Composite also advanced around 0.1%. Remember, the S&P 500 and Dow also posted their 5th straight weekly gain. CNBC's Josh Lipton gets us a wrap of all the action on Wall Street.
U.S. markets ending the day on a positive note, with the Dow gaining 136, the S&P adding 13, and the Nasdaq up 9. U.S. job growth slowing in July, adding just 157,000 jobs versus the 190,000 expected. The overall employment picture, though, remains solid, with the unemployment rate edging lower to 3.9%. Toyota saying that tariffs could add $3,000 to the price of some popular pickup trucks and minivans. If new 25% tariffs are enacted by the Trump administration, the Toyota Tundra pickup truck and the Sienna minivan would see prices rise $3,000, while the Toyota Camry would rise by $1,800. Internet furniture seller Wayfair is opening an actual store outside Cincinnati. The outlet store will sell returned goods and other discounted stock. Wayfair is following in the footsteps of other internet retailers who have opened brick-and-mortar stores, including Amazon, Warby Parker, and Bonobos. That's the action from the U.S. market. Now back to you in Mumbai.
All right, so let's take a look at the big economic data that came in from the U.S. on Friday. The United States added about 157,000 jobs in July, missing expectations of 190,000. CNBC's Steve Leisman is here with the details.
Really, when you dig down, it's a weaker than expected report, but it's actually stronger than it looks when you dig down. I'll show you why. Non-farm payrolls, 157 versus the 190 expected. But look at those powerful revisions to May and June. 59, that brings the 3-month average up to 224. So you're really humming along fine. Unemployment rate ticking down to 3.9. Average hourly wage is not too bad, 0.3% after 0.1 the prior month, pardon me. And there were several one-off factors, guys, that really might have biased the number lower. Let me give you 3. Toys R Us layoffs minus 32. A low response rate to this survey could have biased it lower, and a big decline in education that probably has more to do with seasonal adjustments for layoffs or the whole summer season in the education business. Here's where the jobs were. Leisure and hospitality up a strong 40,000. Manufacturing's humming along, up 37,000. That is a hallmark, by the way, of the Trump presidency, is definitely more manufacturing jobs. Temporary help up 28,000. Construction, even though they say there's a problem finding those workers, up 19,000, and retail up 7,000. Economists, though, caution could be the beginning of a trend if you see that this continue, these lower numbers, and that tariffs could reduce employment down the road, but not just yet.
Okay, jobs growth missing estimate just by a tad bit, but on that note, here is some opinion on what the market makes of that job data and the U.S. economy going ahead.
We got this ramp up in job growth, but companies are scraping the bottom of the barrel. I mean, we saw the unemployment rate for high school dropouts fell by 0.4 to 5.1%, a record low. So basically, we are running out of workers, and that may be constrained later on. But if you move the economy to about 3% growth, it does hit employment. And actually, it's unemployment with a lag of about 1 or 2 quarters. So we're going to see this struggle to find workers, particularly over the next year. In July, average hourly earnings were up 2.7% year over year. That's less than inflation in June of 2.8%. And that's after a quarter in which U.S. companies saw a 27% gain in operating earnings. So companies are holding down wages. That's, it's not good for workers from that sense, but it is very good for both stocks and bonds because it does hold down inflation and it keeps those profit margins high.
We have low productivity growth in the economy, and when you have low productivity growth, you're going to have low wage growth. And I think this is what a pretty hot labor market looks like in a world with low productivity growth. I'm still a little puzzled, though, why in the last year or two you haven't seen a pickup in that wage number, and it's possible just that it's a bit mismeasured, and if you look at all of them, you do see some faster wage growth. You're actually seeing faster wage growth at the bottom than at the top, so I don't see that either. What I think is we're just not innovating at the pace that we did, 15, 20, 25 years ago. And when you're not innovating as much, you're not going to see the same wage gain.
All right, good gains across the Atlantic. In fact, in Europe, markets ended the Friday's session on a positive note, as investors digested corporate earnings and news of Apple's market cap hitting upwards of $1 trillion. In terms of economic data, Eurozone retail sales grew for the second consecutive month in June, rising 0.3%. The FTSE was the key outperformer there, up about 1% ahead of Theresa May's meeting with French President to bolster support for the UK Brexit. However, the pound, that one fell as one of the Bank of England members did warn of an uncomfortably high risk of a no deal between the UK as well as Europe as far as Brexit is concerned. In the emerging market space, though, both the Russian as well as the Brazilian indices should come up for you. And as we speak, we saw big gains come by in the Brazilian index. Remember, in the earlier part of this year, that index was trading close to around that 69,000 mark. From then on, we have seen a gain upwards of about that 20% mark, closer to the 81,435 on the Brazilian index. The Russian index, too, sitting with a gain of about 0.4%.
Okay, let's shift focus and see what's happening in the world of currency, because the dollar seems to be holding steady against the basket of its peers after US jobs data reinforced investors' expectations that the Federal Reserve will gradually raise interest rates this year.
In the world of commodities, oil prices edged up as Saudi crude production took a surprising dip in July, and American shale drilling seemed to plateau.
Well, back home on the Wall Street, the market closed higher on Friday, with the Sensex and Nifty posting their biggest one-day gains in more than a month. The Nifty reclaimed the 11,350 mark, while the Sensex also ended more than 1% higher to end above the 37,500 mark. The Nifty Bank slightly outperformed the major indices, gaining about 340 points at the end of the day. The mid-caps also ended around 1% higher. But how's the trade setup looking like this Monday morning? Nigel joins us to tell us more. Nigel, good morning.
Good morning, Anisha. Well, as you said, Friday was a good trading session. The Nifty, in fact, reversed most of the losses that we saw in Thursday's trading session. We ended with good gains, conquer the 11,350 odd mark. Importantly, the advanced decline ratio as well, firmly in favor of the number of stocks that are advancing. And the most important cue in the last couple of weeks is the outperformance we have seen from the mid-cap index in comparison to the Nifty and the Nifty Bank. Just take a look at that. Previous week, Nifty was up 2.5%. Last week, it was up nearly around 0.5% approximately. Now pull up the next chart. You'll see the way the mid-cap and the small-cap index have done. For the last couple of weeks, they have outperformed the frontliners. And that really is something that the bulls will really like, telling you that this rally is getting more broad-based. So that's quite encouraging. At the end of the day, we are saying, well, let's see what the institutions did. The FIs, they were small sellers, very marginal. The DIs, they pumped in more than 87 crores odd. So that was pretty good news then. Because, if you look at it, in the last few months, yes, the FIs were selling, but towards the end of July, they bought in 6 out of 8 trading sessions. And I was looking at some historical data. The FIs have never sold for more than 4 months on the trot. This is in the last 10 years is what I'm referring to. So that told you that, in fact, maybe they have overdone their selling. And with the rupee already at around 69, there's less to lose, even in terms of a currency move as well. Because at worst, maybe the rupee will go to 72 or thereabouts. So the risk reward was firmly in favor of the FIs coming in there. And that's why we saw some buying towards the end of July. Now, last few days, well, some marginal selling is what we have seen. But on the index, they're net buyers. So they're net long on the index. And if you take a look at it in terms of their positioning, the long positions are at around 57%. That compares with around 43%. In Friday's trading session, they bought some calls as well. But the most heartening fact is the way they are writing puts. That's telling you that they don't see a big downside, because if you look at the absolute put-call ratio out there, they have written, even in Friday's trading session, nearly around 6,400 put contracts odd. And overall, 3 puts written for every 1 call odd, telling you that they don't see a very, very sharp downside. So that's quite encouraging as well. Technically, well, we are trading well above all those levels. We should just get it up for you on the screen. The important part is Mangalam as well. We'll touch upon this, and we have seen this in the past. The PCR is at the upper end of the range, 1.73. From there, normally we see a U-turn. So that's one caution factor to the bulls. And the other important part this week, everyone's talking about earnings. I'll tell you what, SBI, that's the big one. It comes out with its set of numbers, and it's very, very important in terms of the Nifty EPS. Nearly around 24 to around 28% of the EPS growth for this year will come in for SBI. So we'll have to look at SBI's quarter-1 results very, very closely, and just keep an eye out on that one, because that really can make it a good results earnings, quarter-1, or in fact maybe a bad quarter-1 in terms of an EPS growth that we have to see on the Nifty.
Right, Nigel. You spoke about SBI and a couple of individual stocks as well. What are the other ones you're watching out for?
Well, a few stocks that should just fly by the screen as we speak. We have Britannia, we have Adani Ports in terms of those frontliners. Graphite, those numbers should look blockbuster on a year-on-year basis. And a few of those financials as well as banking stocks as well will be in focus today. Titan, that's one stock I'll be looking at. Mangalam was listening in to the con call in Friday's trading session. Well, the margins were better because of a couple of reasons. One was watches did win. Second is that, in fact, in terms of the jewelry business, the studded business over there, in fact, it was a higher share in terms of the total revenues. Though the jewelry business revenue growth wasn't that great. Let's see how the stock does. If you want to buy jewelry, really Titan is the best in class out there. So that's why it enjoys the premium valuation. SAIL. Well, in fact, I'll be looking at both Titan as well as SAIL, because the street was bracing for something good. Both those two stocks, they didn't end at the high point of the day in Friday's trading session. So those numbers look good. Maybe, in fact, we should see the stock open up in the green, though the operating profit is bang in line with what our poll threw up. Divi's Laboratory, the numbers look quite good. Motilal is saying that they continue to remain positive on the stock because it's a play in the CRAMS business. Vocart on a very, very low base, well, those numbers look quite good. But sticking with Pharma, Lotus Labs, well, margin compression, not too good. But Suzlon, what's going on there? Anisha, the numbers didn't look good. Suddenly, the management is saying we'll come back with the guidance at the end of quarter 3. So keep an eye out on that stock. Everyone was bullish at 20, 22, even at 7, 8 rupees. Now we'll have to see what happens to that stock. KEC, well, the numbers look decent, pretty much steady. Profitability jumped up by more than 35%. Den Networks, there was a margin compression out there. So I expect that stock to see some selling pressure. Berger Paints, it doesn't get better than this. Bang in line with the poll. Berger Paints should come up for you on the screen. And good results. The likes of Gujarat Alkalis, ENIL, both those two numbers looked quite good. Finally, Shipping Corporation, the losses expanded out there. We had, the margins getting compressed out there. And water-based, though the numbers look good, there was some margin compression to the tune of around 250 basis points odd. Keep an eye out on TCS as well. We had alerted our viewers that keep an eye out. The record date is likely to be in the 3rd week of August. That's precisely what it is. In the near term, that's what should, support the stock. Just telling our retail audience out there, if you want to qualify for that 2 lakh mark, then you come in the smaller retail shareholders. You'll have to keep an eye out on that one. If it goes over 2,000 rupees, then make sure you don't have 100 shares. Otherwise, you'll not come in that minimum category. So keep an eye out on that one. Wipro, they have settled, one of those lawsuits as well. So that stock should be in focus. And Indian Hume Pipes, that one as well should be in focus. Finally, a lot of the retail audience out there, they're going to be very, very happy because today we have HDFC AMC that list. Most of the people that I speak to, they say, well, we have got one lot and the grey market premium is more than 500 rupees. So 50% gains right away. 14,000 is what they put in. They should make around 7,000 today. But let's see, what happens on that one. I'm more interested in what happens, with regard to Reliance, Nippon, AMC. Because in the last 15 days, that has given you returns of close to around 20%. So if your retail audience out there, if you had put 2 lakhs, so then you're saying I got only 14,000 rupees. If you put it in this one in the last 15 days, you would have made 20, 22% odd. So, that's the market for you.
You've made a very important point out there because tell you what, when DMart listed, you made since the day DMart has listed to now, you've made more money in the likes of VMart Retail and Future Retail, the likes of that. So very important point.
And the market is a teacher, Mangalam. We have learned this out here as well. So it's a teacher. Everyone's putting their money in DMart and suddenly if you had allocated somewhere else, you would have got more allocation, more number of shares, and you would have made more money as well. But I think Director Singh, let's move on.
The beauty of the markets.
Okay, guys, thank you for for getting us that interesting data and setting up the trade screen for us. But it is time now for a short break on the show. Up next, an exclusive conversation with DA Secretary Subhash Chandra Garg